Welcome, everybody. We're here with Pam Montgomery and Ryan Clover has joined me. We're hosting one of my favorite plant wisdom people, Pam. Hey, Ryan, I see you have your assistant with you.
Yes, I do. Hi, everybody. It's really good to be here today.
So Ryan is on the BotanicWise team as our marketing coordinator through Maple Creative. And his son Wolfie is full of really good ideas about marketing, particularly for raisin bread. Is that raisin bread?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And my name is Karis Lindrith, and I'm the founder and organizer of BotanicWise. And I'm really hot today. It's 80 degrees here in Pennsylvania. So it's not going to last. A storm is cooking up. If I disappear suddenly, it's because I got cut off by a storm. I think we're going to get a thunderstorm, our first big thunderstorm of the season. Exciting. My daughter's down communing with nature in the stream, hopefully coming back with a fresher perspective. But Ryan and I have been talking a lot about community. As we are nearing the anniversary of our creation of the BotanicWise community platform, which really Ryan spearheaded for me. So I wanted to ask you, Ryan, if you had a little bit to share about your journey around creating community and why you feel like it's so important.
Yeah, thanks, Karis. I'd love to. So I've always been really excited about community spaces. When I was a teenager, I was involved in a teen center and started organizing events very early on. And when we were working on the Allies for Plants and People symposium, we needed to bring that online. And it was a really exciting challenge for me as a designer working on sort of websites and online spaces. And the BotanicWise community sort of came out of this conference where we set up this platform to engage. And so what we're doing now is we're sort of rethinking what the platform is going to look like and what sort of topic categories we can use and stuff like that. And so we decided to open the doors of the community to everybody from the conference and then kind of beyond the conference. And one of the conversations that we'd been having, Karis and Abby and I was, what could we start offering in the BotanicWise community on a regular basis? So we started thinking about what kinds of events we would put on. And so this is going to be the first in a series of free events. And what I want to invite everybody to do is after this event is to go and post your comments and reflections and whatnot in the community space. And actually that's a place where Pam can continue to answer some questions as well that aren't able to be answered here on the live webinar. And so we can stay connected in that way. And the other thing that you'll notice in there is we're going to be putting in a welcome video, kind of giving you a guide to the changes that we're adding in the community, just in time for May Day and spring.
Yeah, so I just sent out a little sort of a thought email where I was thinking, just doing a little research about community and really wanting to make this more than just a group of people who are interested in plants and medicine, but really start building some relationship. And so it made sense to me to start with Pam, who has such an intimate relationship with plants and such a strong belief that this connection with plants is really how we heal our communities and relationships with each other. So with that in mind, I thought this would be a perfect kickoff to making the community something more intimate and trust building than just a bunch of people hanging out and studying plants. So Pam, welcome to our kickoff event. I want to thank you for your preparation and time it takes to share your knowledge with us. If you have not met Pam before, Pam Montgomery is an author. She's a teacher. She's a plant practitioner. And she's passionately embraced her role as, I would say, like an ambassador for the plants. She's really brought to life the fact that plants actually want to connect and communicate with us. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. You can read more about her in the bio associated with the webinar. I just said tonight, but it's tonight for somebody somewhere. It's this afternoon. So Pam, I'm going to hand the floor over to you so you can get started.
Thank you, Karas, so much. It's really great to be here. I really appreciate and really honor all the good work that Karas does. She kind of like blows me away because she's so like comes up with such good ideas, and she's really on top of it, and she's got a great team that she works with. So she has been really an inspiration to me. So thank you so much, Karas. And Ryan, of course, is helps me out with some of the online stuff I'm doing these days. And Abby has been beginning to help me in some of the organizations that I'm working with too. So I'm really feeling like, wow, I'm getting to know all these really great, cool people. And it's kind of like a whole new, it's a whole new world out there. So it's great. It's great to be here. I really appreciate it. And I get to share with you one of my most favorite topics, which is communicating with plants. So this is, yeah, this will be fun. So let's see. I'm going to do a slideshow. So, and you all have to bear with me because I'm about the least techno person you could ever find anywhere. But
we often find that with plant people.
But it's all, there we go. All right, there's the first slide. So let's see if we can, oops, I didn't want to do that. Sorry. I wanted to go back here. I want to go back. All right. Sorry about that. How do I go backwards? Maybe that way. Nope. Okay. Abby, tell me how to go back. I was actually trying to move it over in the screen. So, but
can you use your arrow buttons?
yeah, they're not arrowing. They're not going backwards. Okay, well, anyway, the first slide said plant communication, and it had, I don't know if you saw it or not, but it had people holding hands and actually holding leaves of plants. So that was the first slide. So sorry about that, but I somehow clicked the wrong button, which is kind of common for me. But so anyway, that's what we're talking about today is plant communication. And I want to look at that word communication because there's so much more involved than kind of what we think communication is, which is talking these words. You know, we have these words that come out of our mouth, and that to us is primarily communication, but it's so much more than that. And that's what's beautiful about the plants is that they oh, somebody's scribbling on my screen. It must be Wolfie. Is that Wolfie scribbling on my screen? Anyway, so communication, you break that word down and you've got communion is part of communication, and then common union. And that's what we look for with the plants is where's the common ground for us? Where is it that we can intersect? Because we know that plants don't have mouths like we do that speak words, that speak these kind of sounds that we make. However, they communicate in lots of other ways, which we can actually, it is part of our makeup as well. It's just not what we've focused on. We have focused mainly on making these words, these sounds coming out of our mouth. So that's what we're going to look at today. So here we have, in this next slide, we have the breath of life from the green beans, and this lovely young woman she's just breathing in here. So this is like one of the foundational pieces that we can communicate through our breath. And it's something it's really simple because we breathe, you know, all the time. And we don't even think about it. It's just what you do. And so we would, we could call this green breath because it really is green breath, because we're actually breathing in oxygen, which the plants are breathing out. And then we're breathing out carbon dioxide, which the plants are breathing in. So we're really having this exchange of breath with the green beings all the time. And so it's not like we have to work at being in relationship. We already are in relationship merely because we breathe. And so so when you kind of get to that place of like, oh, I don't know how do I do this? I'm stuck, whatever. Just calm down and go into this very simple place of breathing. And once you bring it into conscious awareness that you're actually breathing with the plants, that your breath is their breath, and they're breathing in you. So there's this like amazing, once you bring it into conscious awareness, you're like, wow, this is really incredible. I'm the breath of another being, and this other being is my breath. And so it's just this it's actually quite intimate. So it moves from kind of the mundane into the profound once it's conscious. So then there's another kind of what we would call green breath, which is something I developed a few years back, which is actually like transformational breath work. It's like that kind of, so you breathe really deeply for a long time with one plant, and that is super powerful. So breath, it's a very, very simple way to begin your building it into a partnership. Like I said, you're already in relationship because you breathe, but once it moves into consciousness, then it becomes more of a intimate communication. Okay, so what we're doing here is that our hearts are connecting into the heart of nature. That's basically where we begin. We begin with our hearts. And nature is so, and the plants, of course. When I say nature, by extension, I mean the plants and the trees. 99.9% of, well, maybe it's not 0.9, 99%, let's say that, of all living organisms are plants or trees or seed vegetables or seed plants. So that means that they're the most predominant organism on the planet. And so, and what I have found in my work with plants is that they're very giving and they're very generous with themselves, and they want us to be successful. They want us to get it. They want to communicate with us. We're like their little brothers and sisters or something, or they really want us to kind of be successful. And so that's what I feel like with nature, is we're really tapping into the heart of nature and with our hearts. And the plants really, really do love us. And it's, anyway, there's this thing called biophilia. Some of you might know about it, which basically means love of natural processes, or love of life, love of nature. And I extend that to love of plants. So biophilia comes about, it engenders this emotional bond with plants. And because of our symbiotic relationship with plants and our long time association. So, we've evolved. I mean, the plants evolve prior to their animal counterparts. So like angiosperms evolved before mammals, because mammals needed something to eat. So angiosperms evolved first, for example. But we have been with the plant world since the very beginning, because we needed them to live our lives. We needed oxygen. We needed tissue. We needed food. We needed all of that. So plants and people are extremely symbiotically related. And biophilia is right now, scientists are hunting for the gene. That there's this hypothesis that in our genetic makeup that we actually have a gene that requires there's a need to be in close proximity to nature, because nature is what gives us our life. So anyway, Okay, I love this little picture. It's so wonderful. It's just so touching and really kind of gets that message across that when we're communicating with plants, we're communicating through our hearts. And we're not figuring it out with our head. The heart is the primary organ of perception, and it's how we receive all the information, all the data. It comes in through the heart. And then ideally our heart is in coherence, and it sends those kind of decisions that it makes from what it receives from the environment. It sends that information to the brain, and then the brain carries out the decisions. That's the way rightfully the heart sits in kind of on the throne, calling all the shots. It's the primary organ. It makes the decisions, and then the brain carries out the decisions. And so they have very different functions. And it's really important to understand their functions, because if we keep trying to kind of figure it out, you just spin your wheels. And so you go into your heart and let the heart really receive the information and then understand and then it has an understanding of what to do with it. And so so it's very, very important for us to be working through our hearts and not our heads. Not that we're throwing the head out the window. It's just we want to put it in its rightful place. And it's not about doing the perceiving. We do not perceive with our brains. We perceive with our hearts. So we want our hearts to be in coherence, which means that internally it's in training with the brain, and externally where our hearts have a very large electromagnetic field. And so that's how we start to connect with nature and with plants and trees, is through our heart. And so we give positive impulses to the heart, which helps put it on the throne, helps it move into coherence. And one of the big positive impulses is gratitude. And gratitude is relatively simple to give as a positive impulse, because I feel like there's always something to be grateful for. Either we're grateful for our children or our grandchildren, or we're grateful for the food on our table, or we're grateful for being able to take a walk in the woods, or we're grateful to be able to be here. What an amazing thing for all of us to be able to gather here on this in this media form. And so there's always something to be grateful for. And it's not about thinking about gratitude. Again, we're not, it's not about the brain. It's about being in the state of gratitude. So I usually, the way I bring up my gratitude is I think about my little grandson, who is like the love of my life. And so all I have to do is like look at a picture of him, or think about him just for a minute, or remember like the last time we were together, which is just recently, because I just had a birthday and I got to hang out with him, and it was just like, oh, it filled my heart so full. And so I just go right there, and I can just feel the gratitude. It just fills me full. And it's just a beautiful thing. So that's a relatively easy positive impulse to the heart. And there's a few others. There's forgiveness, a little harder to do. There's innocent perception, or otherwise non-judgment. Again, a little harder to do, but still a powerful one. There's caring. That's a good one. So there are other positive impulses to the heart, but gratitude, I want you to just consider gratitude, because it is probably one of the easiest ones to bring your heart, into that place of coherence. And then, once you're in coherence, then what happens is, in these peak moments that we have with nature, with the plants and the trees, and what happens is a hormone called oxytocin gets released. It gets released from the heart, and it gets released from the hypothalamus. And oxytocin is really important, because like breath, like breathing, it's one of the ways we're hardwired to connect in with plants. And because it is what's called the bonding hormone. And it's just like it says, it helps you make the connection. It makes the connection internally, it makes the connection externally. And when we're in that space of the oxytocin being released, what it does is it initiates what's called the restorative response. And again, just like it says, it restores everything back to the balance point. So oxytocin is super important. And it's kind of like those moments where you kind of go, you kind of catch your breath, or the wow moments, the wide open to wonder. That I kind of put the little acronym for wow is wide open to wonder. And that's what it is. It's just that full moon the other night. Wow. We saw it. We were coming home from our friends where that day was my birthday, was the full moon night. And we were driving home from our friend's house, whose home we hadn't been at for over a year. And we were the first persons that they invited into their home to have dinner on my birthday. So it was very special. And we were driving home and we saw this giant moon rising up, on the horizon. And it was one of those moments we stopped the car and went, it was unbelievable. It was so big and so bright. And so those are oxytocic moments. And in those moments, we are making the connection. We were connecting in with that moon, just like there, no separation, and bonding is happening. So that happens with plants as well. I mean, it could be when you smell a plant, or, you see a plant that's come up in your garden for the first time and you're like, oh my goodness, what are you doing here? It's so good to see you. And so I just want you to really tap into oxytocin, and you can feel it. It feels like kind of like a warm flush, or sometimes it feels like your chest gets really full, and it's like a cup kind of running over. So you can feel it, but those moments are important. And there are ways in which you can make that connection to that level at which communication just can start to flow. And again, communication doesn't always happen. These words are what we do. And so communication happens on so many other levels, but getting into our hearts, that's the start of it. That's the beginning of it. Breath and being in our hearts, being in those wow moments. So, okay. Then we have, making the heart connection. Yeah. So she's doing that thing with her heart right there. She's sitting in front of these beautiful, we've got some gorgeous angelica there, we've got some valerian there, but I think she's really tuning into that, and those big globes, flowers of angelica there. And so she's getting her heart open there with angelica. Yeah. Okay, so two of the foundational ways in which we communicate on a biological level, this is just across the board in the biological world, is light and sound. And so we experience light let's talk about this slide first. So this is actually plant cells. This is a picture of plant cells, and those little green dots are actually chlorophyll. But plants are light beings. I mean, we all, any living organism is a light being, because we all have biophotons at the nucleus of the cell. But I just wanted to show you this picture because I just love how it just seemed, this to me like really represents how the light is really working through the plants. I mean, plants make tissue from light, from sunlight. We don't make tissue from sunlight, plants do. And then, and it makes their tissue, and then we eat those plants. And so, which then makes our tissue. So it's this whole amazing kind of miracle. I think it's just a miracle when you really think about it, of how light is so important. And so anyway, plants are big time light bearers, I would say. And then, so our how we experience light is in color, and it's a narrow band in the light spectrum. So here's the rainbow spectrum, which is that rainbow light goes from red to purple is the band. And it's how we experience light. And we see it in color, and we see the color red because it's a certain wavelength, and it has a certain frequency, which is different than the color green, has a different wavelength and frequency. And that's why we see it as that color, because that's its vibratory resonance, that's its frequency. And so, but that doesn't mean that there's not more light than that on the ends of the spectrum that we don't see with our eyeballs, but it's still there, and we can still experience it as a vibratory resonance in our bodies. So light is really this key piece here. And biophotons are light particles at the nucleus of the cell. So that's at the DNA level. And when we're truly communicating, when we're really making that connection, and we're vibrating together, we're on the same, we're on the same wavelength, that expression, that's for real. When we're on the same wavelength, we're communicating, and we can do that through light, and we can do it through sound, biophotons and biophonons. So, when this is a key piece in communication, is that you're paying attention to all the colors in the plants, because there's a reason why they're that color. And that color has an effect on you. So anyway, so biophotons. So we want to be in coherence. And so when you're in that's what I was starting to say. When you're in coherence, meaning it makes like a beam of light between you and the plant, a beam of light gets created. That's called coherence, light coherence. And the really cool thing is that plants have a greater ability to fine tune to your resonance than you do to theirs. So it's kind of like, just kind of get yourself out of the way, and the plants can do that, can fine tune to your resonance. Now, there's some fabulous work going on in this field of biophotons. Fritz Popp, who's a German biophysicist, is who discovered the biophotons at the nucleus of the cell. And his work is unbelievable in that he's working with certain kinds of plants and giving the biophotons of the plants to people who are ill, and and we're talking things like cancer and kind of big time things. And he has found that cancer cells, the light at the nucleus of a cancer cell, he calls it going awry. The light has gone awry, meaning that its pattern has been disrupted. So he's giving the biophotons from certain kinds of plants to these people with cancer. And what's happening is that the light is he calls it being reinformed. So it's patterning the light at the nucleus of the cell toward health. Now, I call that leading edge. It's like, yeah, let's get with that one. That's pretty powerful. That is profound communication, that these plant cells are communicating to human cells how to pattern the light toward health. So anyway, I get goosebumps when I talk about this because it's just so exciting. So anyway, light, the radiance of walking through the forest with that radiant light coming through, it's just incredible. Oh, I don't know if any of you might recognize what this plant is. Some of you who look through your tiny little magnifiers. Ensparkalation, that's a word that my husband coined a few years ago. And he actually was talking about well, we don't need to go into that story. I'm going to try to keep it to what we're talking about here. Otherwise, I can go off on tangents, and then, before you know it, the time has flown by. Anyway, I just love this one because it brings out the sparkle that can happen within a plant. This is actually trichomes on a cannabis plant. But I just love this picture because it just feels like all these little trichomes are just so full of light. And anyway, I really like it. So, well, we already talked about biophotons, but anyway, so this is kind of what you can kind of imagine it, and how that, I don't know that this is actually specifically a biophoton, but the idea behind this photo is that it really, the communication can really happen through the biophotons and in all living cells. And so anyway, some people had this question one time before about what do I want to say? The healthcare, the name of the type of healthcare that's doing this kind of work is called biontology, biontology, biontology. And so there's places throughout the country, especially in Europe, but there's a few places here too that are doing this work. And the man who kind of worked to bring this forward his name is Johann Boswinkel, Boswinkel, Johann, Johann, Boswinkel. And so he kind of took some of the work, took some of the Fritz Pop's work and kind of took it another step and brought it into, so he's created actually a machine that can transfer the biophotons from plants to the biophotons of people. So, okay, so then we're going to talk a little bit about sound as well. And here this young man is like, kind of singing out in nature. And so this is another form of resonance, is sound. And that, as I said, it's called biophonons. And so, so sound, again, we hear with these ears in a relatively narrow band in the spectrum. But again, there's way more sound out there than what we hear with our ears, but we can feel it. We can feel the resonance of it in our bodies. So, okay. Oops, well, you can't see me, but I'm over here behind all the pictures of the screen over here with all the people's pictures. I'm actually standing next to the cedar tree with a flute. And so I'm playing the flute to the cedar tree. And this is another thing that I have found, is that plants really love to be sung to and played music to. So one of the things I like to do in the morning is just go outside and I might have a gratitude song that I might sing. Thank you for this beautiful day. I thank you. And I might like go through all the plants, thank you, calendula, today. I thank you. I might go through each one of them and just say thank you to them, but it's like a song. And I am telling you, they just perk right up, and they'll wave, back and forth. There won't be any breeze at all, but they'll be going like this. And it's kind of amazing. So I find that sound is really powerful with plants. And maybe some of you probably heard this, who's heard me talk before, heard this story before, but I'll tell it real briefly, which is that one of my dear teachers, Rocio Alacarn, which some of you may know, Karis has worked with Rocio as well and had her on the program. She was here at my place, and we had done a weekend thing, and she works with water, these water courses and these things called puyos, which are kind of water portals that open, and sometimes they're kind of holes in the ground that water goes down, or sometimes they're holes where water comes up. Anyway, so I had told her, I said, oh yeah, we were walking up in the woods. I said, oh yeah, they're right downstream there. Yeah, there's a hole where the water goes down. She says, oh, take me there. And so I was like, okay. So we went there, and she said, oh my goodness, this is a puyo. We must open this up. And I was like, okay. And I, here I'm going like, what is she talking about? And so after the class was over, and she had brought with her from Ecuador a bottle of ayahuasca. And now don't ask me how that woman got through customs, but she's kind of a magic person. So she did. And I was like, what are we going to do with that bottle? She said, well, I don't know. And I was like, oh, okay. So here we were. So class is over. And she says, oh, okay. She said, now I know. She said, we're going to go to the Puyo, this place that I'd showed her. And we brought the bottle of ayahuasca, and she said, oh, we must open this with the ayahuasca. I was like, okay. So it was me and my husband and her, and she put a little bit of ayahuasca just on the, soft tissue inside her lips. Just, that's it, a little teeny bit. And then we poured it in our hands, in our cupped hands, and then we poured it down the hole where the water's coming down from the mountain, and it's going down this hole, and then it comes back up out in another place further down the stream. And so anyway, we're opening this up, and she said, well, it's a long story kind of, but so we did that, and that supposedly opens the Puyo back up so that it's a portal in connecting into all the underground waterways across the globe, and we have our own portals, like our lymph and places like that. So anyway, and so we did that, and I went first, and we did that. And then I stood up, and I was like, and then I heard all this incredible, beautiful singing, and it was so gorgeous. And I was like, oh, isn't that sweet? The people from the class, they're over in the field across the way, and they're all over there singing. And oh, isn't that nice? Oh, how sweet. And she looks at me, and she sees that I'm kind of looking around and I'm listening. And she said, oh, you hear that? And I was like, yeah, I hear that. She says, the forest, she said, the spirit of the forest is very pleased with us. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was just like, it makes me want to cry. It was just like, every time I think of that story and what we did, and I can count on one hand how many times I've heard that walking out here in my woods. But I have heard it, but it's not a usual thing. It's kind of one of those special connecting in moments. And so it does happen where the forest will sing to you, or the plants will sing to you, and you do hear it. And it might not be the kind of melody, it's definitely not top 40, that's for sure. But it might not be something totally familiar to you as a melody, but it is usually a tonal variation, and it's usually very beautiful. So sound is another foundational way in which we communicate. Okay, so here we are, and this is having close encounter. So this is bloodroot. If for those of you who don't know this plant, this is one of my most favorite plants. Comes this time of the year, so it comes in the springtime of the year, and this is one of my homies. And so I really like up close encounters with plants. Now, plants are shamanic in nature, meaning that they operate outside of time and space. So you can connect with plants at any time, from anywhere. You can connect into them. And once you kind of learn a few things, which I'm going to share with you, of how to do that. But I really like personal up close encounters. So I try to do that as much as I can. Fortunately, I live in a place where I can do that. So anyway, okay. So this woman is tapping in on a felt sensation level. And a felt sensation is just like it sounds. It's a sensation in your body. And that's not an emotion. It's a sensation. So a sensation would be like fluttering in your heart, maybe, or maybe, your hands feel like they're getting big, or you might feel like I don't know, something in your belly, something in your gut. It's a sensation. And so the vibratory resonance from plants and trees, they've got this resonance. They've got light and they've got sound. And we experience that vibratory resonance in our body as a felt sensation. So here she is tapping in to the resonance of this plant, and she's receiving it in her body somewhere. Could be in your head, could be behind your eyes, it could be in your heart, could be in your gut, could be in your hands oftentimes. It can be, so it's a felt sensation. Sometimes it's a posture. Sometimes, the sensation, the resonance makes you want to make a posture. Sometimes it's a movement. So sometimes you'll receive visual images. So what you do when you have that sensation, you identify where it is in your body. What does it feel like? If you could, or what is the sensation? If it were to look like something, what would it look like? So what you want to do with this felt sensation is it's called putting a handle on it. So you want to give it a name, or you want to give it an image, or you want to something so that you can call it back up. So the whole idea is this takes communication with plants out of randomness, out of like, oh, well, maybe if I'm lucky, maybe I'll make a connection. Wouldn't that be nice? What it does is you have a felt sensation. You identify it by putting a handle on it that's exactly describes it as best as you can. And then when you are back with that plant again, or when you're not even with the plant in the physical beingness of the plant, you call that sensation up with your handle, and you're right there again. So one of my, and each plant or tree has a different felt sensation with a different handle, unique to you, because it's connecting in with your vibration. So it's going to be different than somebody else's, because somebody else's vibration is going to be different. So, so you connect in with that, and you can be right back there. So one of my felt sensations is elephantitis. That's what I call it, because it reminds me of what it must feel like to be an elephant, because my hands get really fat, my feet get really fat, my legs get really fat. It's an expanded state is what it is. But I call it elephantitis, not elephantiasis, which is the disease, but elephantitis, because I'm like, that's what it must feel like to be an elephant. And I am, boom, right back there. So, and you have all these different felt sensations. And once you receive the felt sensation, after that, from the sensation, there's an emotional response that bubbles up. And so but it's a sensation, but you receive an emotional response from that, which the main emotions are mad, sad, glad, scared. Doesn't rhyme, but so it could be, you could feel joy, you could feel sadness, you could feel fear, you could feel anger. So, but it's none of that is to be judged. One's not better than the other. It's just that's the emotional response. And so, anyway, so this is felt sensation that it's a very, very powerful way to communicate with plants. And then kind of from there, from the emotional response, what begins to happen is meaning starts to come. It's kind of like through all these different ways of communicating, it's like taking little bits and pieces of the puzzle and putting it together, and it makes a picture. It eventually makes a picture. So felt sensation, if you really practice felt sensation and get that one down, you will be amazed at how much communication takes place. So here's the other thing to remember about communication is that it may be that the communication comes to you and you hear it as words inside you, but because that's our way of communicating. So that's kind of common that we tend to go towards what's familiar to us, and words are familiar to us. So it may be that when you're in communication with the plant, you get this whole download of information that's in words. That's okay. That's okay. We're not throwing the words out. I'm just saying that with our mouths and plants don't have that kind of mouth, even though you might receive it as words inside you, which helps add to the meaning. It might be also that, like, you're working with a plant. I had a friend of mine she was telling me she's going to be doing a class this coming weekend, and she was telling me about how she was working with Tulsi and connecting in with it, and she just really got this strong hit how what Tulsi was all about, and how it was it really helped kind of what was the word that she used? It helped kind of bring it all together. It helped kind of coordinate things and bring it all together. And then like a song came on the radio that was all about that. And she was like, wait a minute, how that song came across like right now when I was thinking about this and thinking that, oh, this is how Tulsi works. And then a song came on that was singing exactly about that. And so communication can happen in those ways too, because we're all part of the unified, it's all part of the unified field. We're all connected into this field of it's called the unified field. It's where we connect on that web of life. And so is that a form of communication? Yeah. And so, okay. All right. So here we have deep observation. And you can, she's kind of cut in half here, but she's basically she's sitting on a branch from, it looks like a madrone tree. This is in California. So I think it's a madrone tree. And so when you are communicating with plants, the other thing you want to do is really work with your sensory awareness. And so deep observation, looking closely, you want to always have a loop that you can, a little magnifier that you can look at closely at the plants, because you'll learn so much by looking very closely at the plants. And then you want to get the wide angle as well, the bigger picture as well. But you want to deeply observe, because there's so much you can learn just by observing the plant. And then, of course, there's the sense of smell. And here she's smelling a beautiful rose, which smells so wonderful. Smell is an interesting sense because it puts you in touch with your hindbrain. And this is the place where you can tap into ancestral memory. So sometimes when you're smelling plants, you'll have a memory of something that might not be from this life of yours. And so you have to say to yourself, where's that coming from? Well, it could very well be coming from your ancestral line, because the blood, your ancestors are living in your blood. And so you can tap into your ancestors at any time, and you can tap into ancestral memory. You can also tap into memory from other lifetimes of yours. Some of you might feel that you've had other past lives, and maybe you don't feel like you had subscribed to that, and that's okay. But if the memory comes up that you can't identify it as a memory from this time around, don't discard it, because there's something there for you and you really need to pay attention. So a lot of what these plants are telling us through smell, through observation, through tasting, through touching, through listening, through all of our senses, which is really, our senses are the way that we, connect in with our environment, is through our senses. So we can learn so much by going through sensory awareness. And they're telling us about how they might be worked with medicinally or edibly, but beyond that too. Beyond that, your sensory awareness will tap you into that bigger aspect of the plants as well. So here I am tasting some dandelion. And of course, you've got all the different tastes. You've got sweet and sour and bitter and pungent and salty. So you've got all the different tastes, and all those different tastes mean something else, how they might affect your body. So, dandelion, of course, many of you already know this, but that bitter taste of that dandelion leaf, which I actually love that bitter taste, especially in the spring, good for the liver, good for digestion. So that's why it's important to be able to taste the plant. And when I say taste, I mean taste. I mean chew it on the tip of your tongue. It's not eat, it's taste. And then, if, like, what did one woman say? She said, well, it felt like knives on my tongue. Well, then what do you do then? Spit it out. Obviously, it's not meant to be in your mouth. So just, spit it out. It's knives on your tongue. Then there's the sense of touch. And you know, touching again, touching is such a beautiful sense because, let's see, how should I say this? It feels good to be touched. And plants like to be touched too. That's what I find. And so like, I really like to rub them. I like to, you know, kind of pet them. I like to do all of that. And what I notice is that they really, grow better. Should I say that? I'm going to go to that extent to say, I think they grow better when you pay attention to them in this way, where you're tasting them, you're touching them, you're listening to them, you're smelling them. They are picking up on your vibratory resonance it's like getting back to that biophilia. It's like, you know, we're in this together and we're caring for each other together. We are being given our life from these plants. And when we acknowledge them, and when we are in gratitude to them, and when we interact with them on kind of a deeper level and on a kind of a love level, they respond. They're not inanimate objects. They're living beings that have a response mechanism. So they respond, and they really respond to touch. They love touch. And here is listening. So listening is, again, another wonderful sensory awareness piece to work with, because it's not only listening to the sound of like how they sound with the wind blowing through them, or sometimes some plants can have a little squeak to them, or a crunch to them. But what the other piece of listening is, it's not just listening on the outside, but it's also listening on the inside. So you're listening to it's really your intuition. And it's not that you don't have intuition. We all have intuition. What might be challenging for you is that you don't listen to your intuition. So practice listening and practice, you know, kind of, if you're going to learn how to tap into your intuition more, then learn how to listen. And so this is where you get into that place of kind of that bigger aspect. Is like when you tap into your intuition and listen to the plant through there, you can learn so much about how they might work with you on an emotional level, how they might work with you on a mental level, how it might work with you on a spiritual level. So working in those other aspects, those other, you know, the other senses really help tap you into a lot to your physical, how they might work with you physically. But you can also tap into all these other levels of how the plant can work with you. So listening is really an important one. Okay. All right. So being in the dream time. So as I mentioned earlier, plants are very shamanic in nature, which is being in the dream time. And so when we talk about the dream time, we talk about, it's not just nighttime dreams. It is nighttime dreams, but it's more than that. And the daydream, which is what, this is Merdeka. She's a lovely woman. And she's tapping into the daydream of the plant. And the daydream is a really interesting state because it's where you got your foot in both worlds. It's like you're here, sort of, but then you're someplace else. And you might have other memories happening, or other visions going on, or, you know, how when your eyes kind of glass over, that's daydreaming. And you're kind of somewhere else, but you're still sort of present here as well. So it's that interesting place of being in both worlds at the same time. And so I find the daydream to be an extremely powerful place. And what I have found with the daydream is that when you're working with plants and you're communing with plants, you are in their daydream. You are part of their daydream. And so you tap in on that level and you pay attention to like every single thing. You know, you pay attention to what's going on inside you in the daydream, and you pay attention to what's going on outside in the daydream. And so maybe there's a bird call, or maybe there's a big gust of wind that comes, or maybe there's an airplane flying over, or maybe there's a hawk circling overhead, or maybe you hear laughter. Some people are laughing over there. All of it is part of the daydream. All of it is, at that particular time, you're there with that plant at that particular time, and all these things are going on. So this is a unique moment. And you tap in, again, you are part of the unified field. All of these things that are happening are part of the unified field. And some would say, oh, well, that's just a coincidence that where people were laughing over there. Really? Well, they could have been screaming instead, but they happen to be laughing. So what does that mean? What does laughing mean to you? What does a hawk circling overhead mean to you? What is a gust of wind mean to you? Usually sudden gusts of wind and loud bird calls are affirmations. So what was it that was kind of marching across your radar screen when you heard that loud bird call? And so these are all touches. These are the touches coming to you from nature, from the plants and the trees. You're being touched. And then when you bring it into conscious awareness, when you bring it up out of the subconscious level, because it's there, it's there. But, most of the time it resides on this subconscious level. So what we want to do to communicate with plants is we bring it up here to the conscious level. We bring it up out of subconscious into conscious level. And all of it has meaning. And what you do is you take all these bits and pieces and start to put them together. And it makes, a picture. It starts to weave into the beautiful fabric. So, okay. So there's really no separation between us and the plants and the trees. We are so symbiotically related. We are related physically with our breath. All of the oxygen comes from the plants and the trees and the sea vegetables, all of it. So we wouldn't be living without our oxygen. And all of our tissue comes from plants. All of our food, our medicine comes, from plants and trees. I mean, and then we have on an emotion. So that's a physical level. On a cognitive level. So basically plants about 1.8 billion years ago started to make decisions, and they started to kind of communicate and organize amongst themselves to encode the ability to grow and to reproduce and to inherit and to mutate. They started making decisions like that 1.8 billion years ago. And so there's this whole field of science right now that is hypothesizing that what we would call higher mind, like our conscious awareness, evolved from this event. That this event of making decisions for a future time and to perpetuate your species, which is what the plants were doing at that time. It was actually blue-green algae that was doing it. So that time period was the beginning, and of course through many millennia, because the humanoids didn't come around until 500,000 years ago, and so we're talking evolutionarily speaking, what evolved from that decision-making moment was what we would call higher mind or conscious awareness. So cognitively, so physically, cognitively, emotionally through biophilia, and then spiritually. Spiritually, we have been evolving with these plants all along. And what I see right now is that our spiritual evolution, which is, I think, where we really need to evolve right now, and it has to do with, raising our consciousness, I think, to the level which we stop destroying the planet. And the plants are guiding us. If we pay attention to them on that level, on the spiritual level, they are guiding us in our spiritual evolution. They're guiding us in how to be on this planet in a sane way, where we stop destroying it. So that's pretty powerful. So anyway, we are not separate from the plants. We're like homies. We are like, we evolved from them. So they're like our big sisters, big brothers. We evolved from them. Okay. Of course, there's beauty. I love this picture. It's like, little dancing flowers. Anyway, and so there's beauty. So that's another aspect here, is that some of you might say, oh, but what about poisonous plants? And oh, what about invasive species? And what about, all those that we kind of go, oh, that we kind of perceive to be the enemy. Basically, what I would say is that all plants have a gift, just like humans. We all come in with gifts. We have inherent gifts that we come in with. Our job is to share those gifts. And so for you to sit back and say, I don't want to say that, or I don't want to speak up, or I'm too shy, or whatever. Maybe you are, and that's okay. But we are here to share our gifts. So if you're too shy to speak about it, then find another way to share your gifts. And the plants are here to share their gifts. And there is beauty in every plant. There's a gift in every plant, even the poisonous ones, even the invasive ones, all of them. There's a gift here. And so look for the gift. Always be looking for the gift. The plants are not the enemy, ever. And so, but if you feel like you have I had a whole interaction with poison ivy where I had to really look for the gift in poison ivy, because it was we were not doing good together. But I did. It's a great protector plant. Hallelujah. And so anyway, look for the beauty in the plants. Okay. Let's see here. Reciprocity, seriously important piece here. Reciprocity means giving back. And so the plants and the trees give us so much. They give us our life, really. And so we really, when you're in, well, more than relationship, when you really want to be moving into like a co-creative partnership where we co-create together, and one's not better than the other. We're not better, they're not better. We're equal. We stand on equal ground here, and we co-create together. So what's really important is for us to give back. And there's lots of ways to give back. As I said, singing to the plants in the morning or any time of the day, really, or playing an instrument with them, or that right here, we like to put a little bit of food, anything that we're eating. We have a little bowl and we put whatever we're eating, and we make our blessings on the food, and then we bring the food outside. This is in my sanctuary garden in the center there of this rock that's in the center. We place the food offering there, and it's gone the next morning. And I know you're going to say, well, the animals came and ate it. Okay, good. They did, but we were like in reciprocity with nature for the gift of the food. So that's one thing. And then we make gifts. That's the other thing. We've got these hands with these opposable thumbs. Plants don't have hands. And so this is a huge gift that we bring in. And so we make things with these hands. We make beauty. We make, it might be a beautiful piece of artwork. It might be a beautiful poem that you've written, or it might be, something you've woven together, or it might be it could be anything. And you make that and you give those gifts to the plants. So here we do this thing called plant initiations, where we work with one plant for 3 days. And we all try to make something with our hands, with our own hands. And we gift that particular plant. And it's just so beautiful. The process is so beautiful in doing that. So reciprocity, so giving back, and remembering that your hands not only can make beauty, but your hands, you've got these kind of minor chakras in the middle of your hand. And so your hands are so this comes with the touch piece too, is why, your hands are really quite healing when you put conscious intention into your hands, having the healing vibration coming from them. And so that's why touching plants is actually a very big gift that we can be giving them. So we give back. We might make prayers. We make eloquent prayers in gratitude for the plants. And it's, one of my teachers would say, it's like honey rolling off your tongue. It's just the most beautiful, eloquent speech that you can make, because again, we can make speech, whereas plants can't make speech in the way that we do. And so these words, just making beauty with these words for the plants. Okay, so So we're in deep gratitude. When we're in reciprocity, we're also in very deep gratitude with the plants and the trees. So she's showing that here. So the plant spirits, so as I said, where there's no separation, and the spirit of the plant. When I use the word spirit, I'm describing it, describing it as the vital principle held to give life. That's my definition of spirit in this context, is the vital principle held to give life. So it's that which is life-giving. And so the spirits of the plant are that part of the plant that is its vitality, its life-giving quality. And these plant spirits can actually live inside us. And when we work with them in this way and we communicate with them on all the different ways that we know to do, which we have to practice, this is kind of a different language. And so you didn't learn Spanish overnight. And so it took you a while. You had to practice it because it's a different language. It's the same with the plants. The language is a little different. The language is light. The language is sound. The language is vibratory resonance. So the language is different. And so we just practice that language. And the more you practice, the better you get at it and the easier it comes. And then before you know it, you're like, oh, I actually do know how to communicate with plants. It's all here. I've just forgotten it. It just kind of, I just fell into a little amnesia. I got a little too separated from nature, from the plants and the trees. And I just forgot that I actually do have, and I know how to do this as well, because I'm a part of nature too. And so I do know this. It's just kind of slipped away. And in this modern day life, it's so easy for it to slip away because there's a million distractions. So, just to say that these plant spirits can live, the spirit of the plant can live within us, and we can communicate, and we do know how to do this. We just need to remember, and we need to practice it until it just comes like our second nature. So, okay, so here is beautiful Tulsi, and this is the spirit of Tulsi. This is actually a mirrored image. So it's like you just take the photograph and then you flip it and it mirrors, it's like when you're canoeing on a lake and it's still water, and you look along the edge and all the plants and the trees are mirrored in the water, and it makes like a right along the edge. You can see that, like that mirrored effect. So this is what this is. So this is the spirit of Tulsi. So I want to share with you something that some of you who have kind of hung out with me before have heard this. And this is the music of the plants. It's called the music of the plants. And this is a device, which you can kind of see that this Tulsi plant is kind of hooked up here. It's got a probe that goes down to the roots, and then it's got this electrode. You can see it clipped onto the leaf there. And basically what it's doing is measuring the electrical resistance between the roots and the leaves. But what it does, the device, and the device has a sound card, 120 instruments, so you can choose the instruments you want. But basically what this does is it puts sound to the vibratory resonance of the plant. So we've been talking about the vibratory resonance, and this puts sound to it so that you can actually hear it with your ears, what the resonance of the plant sounds like when it's translated through this device. When I first, this comes out of Damanhur, this particular one comes out of Damanhur, which is a amazing eco community in Italy. And they work with this a lot. They go into hospitals and they go into schools, and they work with it a lot. And of course, they find that, healing happens faster, and, learning is easier and all of that by actually letting the plants sing. When I first, I was like, oh, what do you mean? We don't need a machine to do this. Come on, we can do this ourselves. But I have to say that what I have found, if you really want to help people to understand kind of on a mass level that plants are living beings and they can communicate to us, it's a good way to do it. So I wanted to just give you a little treat here of listening to Tulsi sing. And this This is about 3 minutes long. So this is like a little meditation for you to be able to go into Tulsi here for a minute and just enjoy this. So let's see if we can really make this happen. Okay. So thank you so much, Tulsi. That was beautiful. So what you were hearing was, like I had said, tonal variations, and how it plays and sings changes depending on what's going on in its environment. So oftentimes what we have done in class is have different people come up to the plant and touch it and everything, and the sound changes. And so it really responds to you and where you're at and everything. So there's all kinds of stories I could tell you, but I'll leave it for now. I was hoping that you enjoyed listening to Tulsi sing. So, uh-oh, wait a minute. No, you're not supposed to start again. Wait. There we go. Whew.
That naughty Tulsi.
That naughty little Tulsi wanting to sing again. No, that's the one that I wanted to, here's the one that I wanted to end with. There we go. So, yeah, we're just in gratitude for the gift of life, and we thank the plants so much for all this amazing life that they give us. So gratitudes to the plants. Okay, so
Well,
there we
Pam,
are. Okay.
lots of gratitude coming in for you. And we do have a question about that machine. Some people
I
are,
bet you do. Let me
people
just,
are wondering what-
before we move to questions, 1 second, I just want to mention that we are going to do a little mini course in plant communication. Ryan and I are putting that together, and there's a link that is in the chat somewhere that you can do that link, and that will take you to a page that tells you about this mini course we're going to do. It's free, and it's kind of, you can do it on your own time. You don't have to. It's not. Is that right, Ryan?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you tell him, Wolfie.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to be doing that. So if you're interested in going further with this plant communication bit, we're going to do that. So we wanted to bring more to you because there's so much more. We've just kind of scratched the surface here tonight, but okay. So, okay, Karis, go for it. What kind of questions do we have?
the name of the machine and can people buy them?
Yes, absolutely. The name of the machine is Music of the Plants. And Jen Fry is the US distributor, and she lives right near Karis.
And she's also in the BotanicWise community. You can tag her by tagging @Jen Fry.
Yes.
And you will have access to the replay for this. If you want to listen to it again, you'll have access to it, but it will be stationed within the community. So if you aren't already a BotanicWise community member, you'll be prompted to make an account. We encourage you to make your profile and include where you live. Don't be shy about that, because the community is private and sacred. And that way people can connect. I saw people in the chat saying, hey, Vermonters, I want to connect with you. And that's really easy to do within the community. So if you have questions, there's so many thank you Pams here. Please rewrite your question for me so I can find it easily.
And I'll just add that, again, this machine comes out of Damanhur, DAMANHUR, Damanhur in Italy. And, of course, you could purchase one from there, but your postage will be a bit. There's a couple other distributors in the US too, but Jen's the local one, and she's one of our homies, so we want to support her. And right now they're making one, it's called a bamboo, and it's about the size of a cell phone. So it's tiny and portable. And
nice. Talia wonders, does each plant sound different? Are they unique?
Yes, they do. And what you were hearing with Tulsi was, it was, making those high notes, and then it would drop down to some low notes. And so what was happening was, what was going on in its environment was changing. And I mean, I've seen it change from like in my office here, where I might be playing something, and if like suddenly the sun comes out and it's like there's this big beam of sunlight, it'll change. Or if a dog walks in the room, or so there's all kinds of ways that in which it'll change. And sometimes they just stop. They'll just stop singing. especially if they feel threatened. If the plant feels
Mhm.
threatened, they'll stop singing.
Joanna says, can working with this way with plants resurface old trauma held within the body? I read in one book that it can re-traumatize in some instances, and I'm just curious how to work with this aspect.
Okay, so I think the question is, are you talking about the music of the plants, or are you talking about this communication thing we've been talking about?
I would say this communication.
Okay, so all of it. Okay. And does
it reopen old wounds? I'm putting words in her mouth, but
okay. Well, reopen, I mean, you know, the wounds live with you because it's a part of your experience. They don't ever go away. So they're there. I would say if there's still some work to be done, if there's still some, whatever it might be, letting go or whatever it might be to help heal that, the plants certainly can do that. Do they bring it up on their own? You know, do they initiate it? I would say it's probably you initiating it, and it's a subtle way of asking the plants for help. You could be more direct. You could say, hey, I've got this thing going on, and I really need help with it. Having said that, there was a time in a plant initiation where a young woman had a very deep trauma that she'd carried with her whole life, and she actually, it was in her awareness, but she didn't want to ask. We were working with Yarrow, and she didn't want to ask Yarrow to help her heal that trauma because she felt like that was too big of an ask. And during the green breath, we did a green breath, which is the one where I told you we do like a transformational breathwork session. We were doing that. And during that transformational breathwork session, her hip that had been locked up for years unlocked, and it's been healed ever since then. And there was a whole bunch of other things kind of involved with that. One of which was she kept having miscarriages. I can speak about this because she said it's okay to speak about it. So, she now just had her second baby. So it really healed that trauma. And yet it was in her awareness, but she didn't want to ask because she thought it was too big of an ask. And so Yarrow was like, don't worry, I'll take care of that for you. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's, you know, I don't want to be flip about it, but what I'm saying is that it was in the field. And so Yarrow picked up on that and did work with her. It was an amazing healing.
Catherine is wondering, she says, thank you so much. Can you offer a resource or info about the water portals?
Oh, the Puyos. Pugyo is how you spell that. It's a Quechua word, Puyo. I don't think, that specifically, I mean, Rocio, that comes from Rocio. She has not written anything about it. So I don't know of a written source about that. I mean, maybe there might be somebody in South America, but I don't really know about it. I've only learned about it through Rocio. So
yeah, we'll have Rocio back on. So you
get Rocio on and get her talking about Puyos. Because, she worked with at Tammy's Puyo as well. One time when she was there, we did she does ceremony around the Puyos and all that. But yeah, she'll love to talk about it.
Did you mention your book, by the way, your book?
Oh no. Oh yeah. Oh, that. Yeah, I have a book called Plant Spirit Healing, a guide to working with plant consciousness. And I have an earlier one called Partner Earth, a spiritual ecology. So I have two books.
Where's the best non-Amazon place for them to purchase that?
Well, you can get the Plant Spirit Healing from me because I've got copies of it now. It's been really hard to get copies of Partner Earth ever since this past year because they won't ship out like 5 copies or something like that, or 1 copy. You have to buy a case, and there's 80 in a case, and so it's kind of hard to get a hold of those right now, other than Amazon. I mean, you could try going directly to the publisher, which is Inner Traditions.
Yes, Inner Traditions has it. I just checked today. So it has both of your books. Yeah.
Okay.
Yasmin just says, I signed up for the course. Thanks, Pam. I so enjoyed meeting you again. I met you at the a couple of years ago at the Women's Herbal Conference. And Rio, looks like Rio wants to unmute and ask a question. Always takes a minute to unmute. Rio, are you able to unmute?
Lower left. There we go.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks. Karis, thank you. And Pam, thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question about the part where you were speaking about emotional responses coming from plants when people are practicing this sit meditation with them. And my question is, in any emotional response that could come up, it could be joy, anger, sadness, any of them. In your experience, how often do you think that is a reflection of just the individual? How often is it really an energetic signature of the plant? How much of it is about the relationship in that moment between the two? Could you comment on that?
Sure. Yeah. First of all, the emotional response comes from the felt sensation. So you're there and you're receiving the vibratory resonance of the plant. You identified it as a felt sensation in your body. So you go through that whole piece, and from the sensation, the emotional response bubbles up. So, okay. So generally speaking, when you're at that place in communicating with a plant, the first thing is joy. It's like, woohoo, yay, wow, it's working. Oh my gosh, I'm actually doing it. Wow. So that's kind of across the board, generally speaking. So what I usually say to people is like, yes, you will probably experience joy immediately, and you know, give it a little more time. So so that's kind of typical, is that joy is kind of immediate because you're so thrilled that you're actually doing this, and you're getting some kind of response, and you're sensing it. And so and then, you know, and then another, and then you start bawling and crying, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, I was just so joyful. So the thing about the emotional response is that oftentimes this is what the plant on an emotional level will help heal. So people are always saying, well, anger, oh my God, that's so terrible. No, not if you're, you know, if you're involved with or experiencing inappropriate anger, and this plant helps to bring balance to that. So oftentimes the emotional response has to do with how the plant can help heal or work with that kind of emotion. Now, that's what I would say generally. Generally, it's like you initially have joy, and then something else comes, and usually that is what the plant will help you either balance or work with, or and the person will say, oh yeah. And it may be personal. It may be personal at that time. It may be that you're dealing with a, an angry boss or whatever, and you really, that's what's up. That's what's happening right here, right now. And the plant is there to help you deal with it. So then, kind of with time and experience with the plant, what you'll find is that, plant allies that really become your allies, they will really help you personally with all the stuff you got going on. Then there's the level of working with those plants with other people, which may be something completely different than how they work with you. And you need to discern that. And so it's like, I ask, it's like, oh, okay, you're going to really help deal with balancing anger. Okay, is that just for me, or is that across the board? Is that going to be with other people too? I just ask. And then we do the ping thud method, the ping thud method. You go into your heart, and it's like you ask the question, and does your heart go ping, or does your heart go thud? It's yes or no. It's like it either gives you energy, or it's like it's kind of the basic kinesiology kind of idea. But so that's what I do. I want to know, is this for me personally, or are we going to work this way with others, or with the earth, or with animals, or whatever it might be? So did that answer your question?
Yes, very much so.
Good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Corey has a question. How does this plant communication relate to flower essences and other plant essences?
Well, so is the question, are you communicating with a plant before you make a flower essence? Be more specific about the question.
I think maybe if you're taking a flower essence, are you communicating?
Oh.
I'm just making that up again.
You're making that up. You're pretty good at that, though. You're kind of good at filling in the blanks.
Make up
right?
stuff.
Yeah,
Just
you
like
make up
Tammy
stuff.
Sweets.
Okay,
Well,
okay. Not all essences are essences. I don't mean to say it that way. Not all essences are made the same. That's what I want to say. So it's yes, there's a level of communication with the plant, of course. And again, it's working on that vibratory level. There's no plant constituents in essences. It's the vibratory, it's the signature of the plant, the vibratory essence of the plant. And yes, you can communicate through plant preparations, of course. But again, it's really important to know who's making the essences. So like when I make my essences, I make sure, because I have a whole process that I go through in making them, that the spirit of the plant is infused in those essences. I know that they are. And so I would be very confident in saying that my essences, you're going to be able to communicate with the spirit of the plant for sure. And there's other people who make essences, Jen Fry's another one. She makes some fabulous essences. Kate Gilday at Woodland Essence, fabulous essences. So there's some fabulous essence makers out there. And then, I know a few essence makers out there that I wouldn't recommend. And so basically, if you don't make your own, then know who your maker is, and that they're working with the plant in a very co-creative way, in a partnership kind of way. And yes, I would say that you can communicate with essences.
beautiful. Lula Sutton is going to bed. She's in Spain. Just thought that was fun.
Oh yeah, it's getting late there for her.
We had somebody from Hong Kong here.
Wow.
Okay, I had another one. Oh, how do you teach children about gratitude? How do you explain that to them?
Well, it depends on how old of a child you're talking about. Young ones it's kind of inherent. They kind of know about that kind of thing, but they can teach us about gratitude. I would just help them be in a state that they, like when you're happy, you're grateful for when you're happy. So I think it's pretty easy to get children in happy states, but that's what I would do. I look at my little grandson who's almost 4 years old. He's a pretty happy boy, but I would do something with him and that I know makes him happy. And then it's really just associating the word gratitude with happiness, kind of putting those two together. Or maybe I'd say, oh, how's your heart feel right now? Put your hand on your heart. How's your heart feel right now? Oh, is that a happy heart? Oh, then we would call that gratitude. And just so that he begins to learn the word gratitude of what that really means. But that's what I would say, being in the happy heart.
Nothing like modeling.
Right.
We have time for one last question, and the rest will go to the community, and we'll let you find them there or help you find them there, Pam. Melissa says, I have a question about harvesting plants for tinctures. How does Pam work with the plant, for instance, a root that may be dug up to create a root tincture?
Well, I always let my plants know what's happening, and so the question about, that's not what this question is, but just to kind of say that plants, one of their, jobs is food and medicine. That's what they're doing besides making oxygen and, making the soil great and all that. Part of what they're doing here is providing food and medicine for animals, we being one of the animals. So harvesting plants for medicine and harvesting edible plants, it's a way of honoring the gifts that the plants bring in. And so I don't see it as like, I mean, I don't approach it with the attitude of like taking or using. I approach it with honor and respect and gratitude, and just thank you so much for, and roots especially. I dig the roots. I've dug some spring roots already this year, and I harvest the root and replant the crown. So the crown's just like the top 2 to 3 inches of the plant of the root, and replant it and it'll grow back. Pretty much most roots will do that. So that's what I do, so they continue to, to grow. And I just tell them, it's time to harvest some of your beautiful medicine and some of the beautiful gift that you've brought to this life and to this world. And I thank you and honor you so much for that gift. So it's really, that's part of the reciprocity too. And then I'll give something, whenever I'm harvesting, I give something back. I'll give something to the plant. And so it's, it's a lot about, having our rituals and our ceremonies with the plants and just treating them like the sacred beings that they are. I mean, you like to be respected and honored. You like that. You like good vibes. You like to feel good. You like that. So do plants. And so we honor them and respect them and give back to them and treat them like the amazing beings that they are, that are giving us our very life. I mean, that's a heck of a lot of gratitude, I would say, is they're giving us our life. Man, we really need to honor these beings, these green beings, because they're special.
And so are you, Pam. I just want to thank you for sharing, the plant path that you are clearly walking. This isn't just something you've studied and read research papers and you're regurgitating to us. This is clearly your passion and your way of life. And it's so valuable, really. It is so uplifting, right? Raise your hand if you feel uplifted. I feel uplifted. I'm just so happy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we need that. We need that these days.
Yeah.
I want to thank you. And again, we're going to be sending you an email with a link to the community, and you can join the community. You can join the community and get access to the replay and leave the community if you don't want to be there. But hopefully you will have an opportunity to learn from other passionate herbal teachers. Oh, Kate Gilday has her hand up, so we're going to make space.
We got to
for
see what Kate has to say.
My dear friend Kate, who is from Woodland Essence.
Hi.
Hi, Kate.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. I raised my hand because I thought everything was really awesome. The whole program just unfolded in this beautiful way, really like a flower opening, petal by petal, to just by the end of their talk, I felt like we all were sitting in a circle, or circles within circles, around a beautiful plant and all being touched by that. And Pam, you have the ability to just like reach out and weave everyone together, and Karis, you do too. And so you've done it once again tonight, and I'm so grateful, and it was just a joy. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Kate. Well, friends, walk in peace.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you,
you all for
Karis.
being
Thank you
here.
so much for making this happen.
My pleasure.